Hey everyone, it's John with National Sports Entertainment, and I wanted to go into tonight's games, but more importantly, we're going to do a recap. We still have one in play, but I made these mostly all leg ones for a reason. They do this either every Saturday or every Sunday. It seems to be every Saturday because if you look back, it's been the last 2 Saturdays, but every Saturday it just seems like the most advantageous teams are playing. So just looking at the against the spreads, which if you watched any of my prior videos, you know how I pick those. Some of these teams at 6.3, 87.5, etc. So here are all my college plays for tomorrow. And the reason I wrote them down like this is because, again, to go into every single one of these, it would take a long time. And I know people don't feel like, sitting here for an hour to get a dozen picks. But I want to go into basically my logic. So, and we'll go back. So let's go to the tonight first. So this is why it's important. So all these picks, by the way, tomorrow, every one is metrics. By metrics, I mean I'm literally picking the against the spread metric, which lines up always with the closing ESPN spread. Okay. Now tonight, what we had a lot of some narratives, some clips. So this doesn't usually happen, actually. It's pretty interesting because this will happen like maybe one game every couple weeks where I get a particular line and it changes. But so tonight, for example, if you watch my last video, I was able to get the Warriors at +5. They were 4.5, and I advised people to buy half a point. Now you can see the line closed at 4. So anyone that bought the half a point still won, and nobody should have lost here because I know one person said they got 3.5, but usually ESPN is going to be the least you get. Now we also had it with the Hawks Pacers. I was lucky when I was able to lock mine in. It was -2. This one moved all the way to minus, I think, 3.5. So I did go ahead and mark the Hawks as a loss, just because I imagine most of the public did not get the -2. I only pushed myself, so I just put it as a loss because I assume most did. Same with the Wolves. The Wolves is another one I actually pushed because when I did my video, and within 30 minutes I locked my picks, and for my book the line hadn't changed yet. The Wolves were -5, and then they moved to 6.5. So you can see the clips, and that happens often. Now the cool thing is a lot of people that have been watching, when they notice things like that, they're very quick to make sure they get that half point. They might not spend $2 or 2 points in juice, but they'll buy a half point if it looks suspicious. So the Wolves, for me, the Wolves, Hawks, pushed, and the Wizards won. But I do know for a lot of people, especially the Hawks, they lost the Hawks most likely, and Wizards might have pushed for them. And then we lost our leg one Warriors, and we got the Clippers very much in play. So I wanted to go into that because, and I'm going to go into, like I said, a deeper analysis on Jacksonville because I think we can do pretty well with some props on that, and as well as San Francisco, which I haven't done before, but in the playoffs, I think it's just kind of, a good idea to go into it. But here's all the college games I like for tomorrow. And again, I put the times and then basically however much I like them. So we don't know exactly what's going to be a leg 1, 2, and 3 because we don't have a ton of open sequences. So, and I'm saying all the way back to, the beginning, I've made sure to close most of our sequences. So anyway, some that I like we'll be doing as leg 1s. Some that I really like, for example, Tulsa covering Wichita, that's going to be a leg 3 for 4 units. Same thing with Merrimack going over because Merrimack is so bad on the over. And Mississippi State I'm looking at. But all these other ones, you could just, however you want to go about doing them. Essentially, if I have an open leg 1 that, loses. So for the basketball losses tonight, for example, for the Warriors loss, for those losses, I'll plug in UAB for a leg 2. I'll plug in the under on UAB. I'll plug in South Carolina State covers NC Central as a leg 2. If we had one like, say, the Clippers don't cover, well, then I'm going to be playing Tulsa. That'll be the one I play. Tulsa covers Wichita State, and etc. So we do have a couple open sequences anyway that need leg 3s, so that's why I have 2 here. But I just wanted to show everybody, these are my plays. I don't know any players on these teams. I know very few on some teams now, but this is all metrics. And we've been shooting between probably 65 and 70%, literally just picking like this. It's a great metric because you're not going to have teams finish 8% on any kind of spread. So I know it's not the most fun thing, but at the end of the day, it is the most efficient, and that's what matters. Now, we already went into, I'm going to go into tomorrow's NBA. I didn't see anything too crazy, but I already went into the playoffs. If you saw my last video, I didn't really focus on the Jags too much, and I was just really more focused on the Niners with the Jimmy G and the public action, what I think is going to happen as far as them winning a close one. You can see they already moved it to 9. So again, I got it at 10, but I try and bring these things up because of movements of the line. So the reason I felt compelled to do this and include the Jags is because I have a very good feeling that this plus 115 is going to be even probably within like 4 hours. So if people can get this information and get the money line, again, I think this is a value game. They're either going to, my opinion, lose or win, and I don't think the 1.5 is going to matter in this case. Even if it was 2.5, where normally I would love the points, just because the Jags are the only underdog. Really the only underdog. You can call it Bucks 1 or something, but the Jags are the only real underdog. I do believe that they'll win this, and I think it's foolish not to take the 15% extra on the money line if we're going to take it anyway. So I wanted people to know that, but also just kind of what to expect. So I mentioned props a minute ago, and I did for a reason. You can kind of extrapolate between everything they have here. So we got a relatively, not a high over under, but it's certainly not a low one. This is one you'd see with like a Chiefs type of game. So indicating the score might be pretty high. And at the same time, this is probably going to be, again, if my theory is right and Lawrence wins, I think he's going to look very good in doing so. So anybody that's a prop hurt. Now I love Etienne, but it's just sometimes they could be very, same thing with Eckler. They can be very odd with the run, with what to expect. But what I do expect is them to make Trevor Lawrence look really good. So if you're a prop person, I think they have him like 260 yards or something like that. I absolutely love him to go over. And whatever his prop is, even if it's 275, I like him to go over. I personally did a little bit of it wasn't a big one, but I did it's about a half unit, and it's for him to go over 315 yards. And it's plus odds enough to basically be enough to win. It's almost 2-1. So I really like this prop just because I really feel like this game needs a narrative. We're not going to have a lot of great quarterback play. We know we have Tua is not playing tomorrow, the day after this game. Tom Brady and Dak, I think, are the other games, so that should be pretty interesting. But, oh no, it's the Giants and Vikings, okay. So we got the Giants and Vikings, that's going to be Sunday, as well as the Dolphins. And neither of those teams, Daniel Jones is kind of a draw, but I think you got Purdy, you got Geno. I think Herbert and Lawrence, have to be the game here where they kind of have a shootout, if you will. And I think a lot of people aren't expecting a shootout from a team like Jacksonville. So, yeah, I just wanted to reemphasize, A, I do like the Jags money line. B, I would get in on it before it becomes even. And C, I like Trevor Lawrence on some props. I'm going to stay away from touchdowns because they will be really sneaky with touchdowns. But I do like them to go over 300 yards. And if I had to, I'd probably pick this game to go over, where I think we're going to get the opposite with the Niners. This one, I would definitely lean with the under. I think they want to paint this as, again, two gritty teams. They're division rivals. And I would do something along the lines of, I didn't look at the exact props. I'm not a prop person, but a lot of people have requested I bring them up. Purdy, a couple turnovers, something to that effect. Maybe you could do a takeaway or interception for Seattle. I just think there's a lot of possibilities for props here because I think they need to make Purdy look pretty weak, take a couple sacks, not look too great, probably go under his passing yard expectancy, and really just to underperform. That's why I have Seahawks covering, because I think it's going to be an ugly win for as Bill Cowher used to say, I think it's going to be an ugly win for the Niners. So that's why I have a leg 3 there for Seahawks. I got them plus 10. I still like the 9, but I just felt compelled to go into this as well as the college because the college starts as early as noon. But these games, I can definitely see them moving the line. Again, I'm not always right, but more cases than not, when I get something out there, the line seems to move against us. So I just want people to get the best line possible, especially because a money line here is really good odds. Doesn't look like it, but those are really good odds for, in my opinion, a 50-50 game that, honestly, more of the public is going to be on the Chargers, and I think we're going to have a Jacksonville team look pretty good. So we got a lot in play tomorrow, and it's funny because while everyone's excited about the playoffs, this is where the real earning is going to be happening. It's going to be with college basketball tomorrow, just because the metrics are so good. But I do trust the narratives, so, if you really want to watch the games and play them, those I still stand by. Seahawks cover, Jags win. But I would add some kind of prop for Trevor. However you like to do your props, that's up to you. I just think he goes over 300. I think he looks really good. And I think Purdy does the opposite. I think he goes under maybe a turnover or two. And that's going to be the narrative of those games. But you can see tomorrow at just noon already, we got Tennessee's going to be our first game. And then actually that's the only one. I thought about playing NC State, but that's the only one that's at least ranked. We have about 3 or 4 at noon, and that's why I wanted to get them out for everybody, just so they can have everything in time, because I know, especially with college basketball, sometimes you have to search them on your book because they're buried. But so yeah, we got them playing, and then Loyal Chicago's another one I got them covering. And again, since there's like a dozen of these, all I'll say is wait until you get the official spread from the closings, but get it as close as 12:30 as you can, okay? Because what they'll do is, again, they treat ESPN like the Associated Press of spreads. So if it's +2 now and you get it, and then it moves to +4, and that 4 covers but the 2 didn't, it's going to reflect here, and that's going to reflect onto all of the official team ranking sites. So I always go by ESPN, CBS, Fox, all of them. They'll give you different spreads, DraftKings. I go by ESPN, and I do like the Loyola Chicago cover. And this, again, right here, these leg 1, 2, 3s, it's really just for you to plug in where you have an open sequence. Now, Tulsa's a leg 3. So an example is, let's just say at 1, Kentucky does not cover. So then at 4, we play UAB, LA Tech under, and that does not hit. Then we play Tulsa leg 3. And if that hits, we close and we profit 1 unit. Now, that, as you can see, we have 12s, 2s, 4s, 7s. So that's a good thing about college also. There's so many games we can pick our spots and see how we're doing, and then basically close out almost everyone in the same day. That's why college Saturday and Sunday is always so profitable. And that's why we've, in my opinion, done the best with college basketball. They're also halfway through the season at least, and some of these metrics just can't continue beyond a couple more games without them already defying history. So again, not the most fun. I know the football is more fun. That's why I went into the props and stuff, because I do think they hold. And I'll be going into the other games as well. But I really just wanted to go into the college because that's where a lot can be made, and I wanted to go into just a recap of tonight. So nothing crazy, a couple clips, and we'll see how our leg 2 goes for the, ironically, the Clippers after we got clipped. And for the ones like the Wolves, Hawks, where I'm sure most people weren't able to get them, we have plenty of leg 2s. You can pop any of these in there, honestly. And I put the time for most of them so you can see which ones take precedent. So that way you have time on Tulsa, for example. But you might want to, and again, I would wait anyway, because if you do it now and the lines change, then I've seen that happen all too often. With these metrics, I like to have ESPN and at the least. And then I still might buy a half a point just because sometimes that still will happen. But as long as I'm lined up with ESPN or better, then I'm happy. But just make sure it's lined up at as close to the closing ESPN spread as you can get. That's what I do with all my picks. I used to pick early, and I will if it's not a metric, if I think it's just a game that's going to swing. But if it's a straight up metric, then it's going to go based off of how the ESPN metric closes. So that's the reason I wait for the closing on all these games and these type games. And Mississippi State Auburn, I'm just looking at. I'm not sure if I'm going to play that one. I'll probably play the Mississippi State over the next game. So probably not Auburn, just because we have a lot in play and it's kind of a tweener. But that's really it. So again, thank you everybody for the support. It's been amazing. And we're just going to keep grinding forward as we've been doing. I think we have a pretty good read over the playoffs. I can say that my Super Bowl prediction hasn't changed too much at all, and I think they're making it even more obvious. And I think they're making who's just going to be in the championships more obvious. So I'll be doing a simulation on that going into probably when I go into the games tomorrow, but I might do it after just because I want to cover basically every team and why I think they're going to be eliminated in the way they are and why I think my Super Bowl team's going to win. And again, if you've watched my old videos, any of my other videos, then you probably know my Super Bowl team. It's not really a secret. It's the Niners, and I'll go into why I like them. And for the AFC, things have changed. I'm not going to lie. I came into the season loving the Ravens, and I can say that I've reassessed that a lot. And I think I have a different team now, so I'll be doing a video on that. But it's all going to be basically the same thing where we just handle these separate matchups. And, for example, that's why I like Jacksonville. I just think it makes more sense to have them play Kansas City. And if we can kind of figure that out, then we can kind of get this every step of the way. And if we can see the stories, like, in my opinion, the Jimmy G has to come back story, then it helps us with games like the Niners, Seahawks. So some people can play both sides, pick the Niners to win, Seahawks to cover. I just keep it simple. But I do think we get that. I think we get a win, no cover from the Niners, and that's why I love the Seahawks cover. So I just wanted to go into all that, kind of wrap everything up since it's been a few days since I've gone into everything, and then also just kind of show people where we're at, as well as all of tomorrow's college plays, and then obviously my NFL plays. I wanted to throw in some props that I think are going to hit, and I will go into the Sunday games, but obviously we have time for that. So again, thank you everybody for everything. It sounds corny, but without all the positivity and stuff, this wouldn't be as easy. It would just be like kind of getting back into everything, not feeling great. But when you see so much support and positive comments and just kind people, it really makes it where I want to get as many of these videos out so we can just keep continuing what we've been doing, and that's being kind and beating Vegas. So take care, everybody, and happy earnings. I think we have a tremendous day tomorrow.